I've got a question for you. Imagine you brew a batch of Vienna lager and split it into two. One half goes into a keg with yeast left over from a previous batch. No yeast harvesting or cleaning, just dump it right in. The other half, well, it goes into a clean keg with a fresh packet of the same yeast. So, my question is, can you actually tell the difference between these two beers after fermentation? Well, to put this to the test, we asked 20 participants, plus my good friend Norm. Are these beers perceptibly different? Let's find out. This episode is sponsored by Delta Brewing Systems. More on them in a bit.
Oh, I brew beer for Brülosophy. It's science, it's drinking, it's fun. Red, blue, green cup, which can it be? Pick the right one and you've won. Brülosophy, Brülosophy, science and drinking and fun. Brülosophy, Brülosophy, think beer while you drink your next one.
Alright, let's make some Vienna lager. Start with my water salts. In with the grains. Now there are a few ways you can go with a recipe designed for Vienna lager. I decided to go the route that was basically just Vienna malt. So in here I have 98% of the grist is just Vienna malt from Epiphany Craft Malts. This is a 10.5 gallon batch using 20 pounds of Vienna malt. And then for a bit of colour, I'm using pale chocolate malt for that. Just 6 ounces of pale chocolate malt. So what I should get is an SRM somewhere around 10, which is pretty consistent with the style. For the mash rest, it's going to be 152 Fahrenheit, 67 Celsius. Now's a good time to prepare one of my fermentation kegs. So I've got a keg here of a previous beer, THC CTZ, that's The Hop Chronicles, Columbus, Tomahawk, and Zeus. This has been in the keg for about 5 months now. I'm almost at the bottom. Honestly, it's past its prime at this point, so I'm just gonna tip the rest out so I can get to the yeast cake below. Actually, this highlights a bit of a problem. I'm using a floating dip tube in here. There is still beer in the keg for sure, but it's just, I guess it's not, the floating dip tube isn't in the beer, it's just resting on the top, so I'm just getting foam. I think I'm gonna have to open this up. So you can see in there, yeah, it's just sitting on top of the beer. I'm just going to have to dump this into the sink and hope I can leave the yeast in here. Well, there's still a good amount of yeast in there. It also has like a krausen ring in there and it doesn't look particularly clean, but the idea is that I'm just going to reuse this keg. I'm not going to clean it out. I'm not going to take the yeast and wash the yeast or anything like that. I'm literally just going to dump new wort in there. It's seeming a bit like a less of a good idea at this point, but there we go. So given that I'm using a fermentation keg with a floating dip tube, it's only fair that the second batch also is fermented in a keg with a floating dip tube. I'm going to repurpose this regular keg with a regular dip tube and put one of these floating dip tubes in. So first of all, depressurize it. Always keep my closed kegs with a little bit of pressure, just so I can be sure that when I come to use it, it hasn't leaked. Alright, so there's a regular dip tube in there. Let's get the guy out. So in place of this little floating dip tube kit, just get a bit of tubing. This very much abbreviated dip tube, and then the floating ball and the screen. Now if you look closely at the screen, there are actually 3 little places where you can hook on the floating ball, and by default it's on the bottom one. I think that's the cause of this riding up and not sucking in all of the beer, so it's like floating too high on the surface. If this were lower down, this should, I think, weight this down a bit more. Now I asked the Brülosophy team this, and it seems the consensus is most people put it here. So that's what I'm going to try. So this goes on the end of the tubing now, and then this should weigh it down more. Then put this in here, and then fumble around a bit. Aha! We're in! If there is an easier way to do this, please let me know in the comments. 2 hops for this beer. I've got Magnum and Tettnang. So Magnum is my bittering hop. I'm just at boil now, so let's put this in. There's 20 grams of Magnum, and then I have 50 grams of Tettnang, which will go in with 10 minutes to go. Looking for an IBU of around 27 for this beer. I added my Tettnang addition with 10 minutes to go in the boil. Then at the completion of the boil, I chilled down the wort. Now normally I don't worry too much about getting down to pitching temperature. I just knock off most of the temperature and let the glycol system chill the rest of the way. But this time, because I'm fermenting directly in kegs, I don't have the glycol option. So I did need to run the chiller a little bit longer. And I got it down to around 72 Fahrenheit, which is just a couple of degrees over my groundwater. At that point, I began the very unusual process of pouring wort directly into a dirty keg with some yeast on the bottom. I'm still not kind of over this. It's so weird. Now I did take my keg with the newly installed floating dip tube, filled it with Star San, and then just pumped the Star San out under pressure just to make sure that that floating dip tube was working. And then I added the other half of the wort to a clean, sanitized keg with that floating dip tube. The original gravity for the beer came in at 1052. So now I'm going to add the yeast, this global, into my clean keg of wort. This other keg down here already has the global in it. The recommended fermentation temperature for global is between 8 and 13 Celsius. I'm going to ferment at 18 Celsius or 64 Fahrenheit. That's what I normally ferment global at for the Hop Chronicles beers. So I'm going to go with that again. I'm then adding my beers into my fermentation chamber, which is just a chest fridge with a temperature controller. And I've set that to 64 Fahrenheit, 18 Celsius, and added airlocks to both of the kegs. Now, this whole experiment was inspired by a home brewer I heard about who uses fermentation kegs dedicated to specific yeast strains. So he has a keg for lager yeast, another one for Belgian yeast, and so on. When one batch is finished, he simply brews a new beer and then pours it on top of the yeast sediment or the trub from the previous batch. It doesn't matter if the new beer is a different style. The lager yeast keg is used exclusively for brewing various types of lager. So I was kind of intrigued by this method, and I decided to try something similar. So here I am using a keg that was previously fermenting a lager, a pale lager with global from Imperial yeast, and now I'm repurposing it for a completely different beer style, a Vienna lager, to see how it affects the beer. And before we get to the results, a quick word on today's sponsor, Delta Brewing Systems. Delta Brewing Systems offers some of the lowest prices on stainless steel brewing gear like the Firm Tank, which in addition to holding 8 gallons or 30 litres of wort, comes with a domed lid to reduce the chances of a messy blow-off. Plus, it can hold up to 2 psi of pressure for closed transfers. Delta Brewing Systems also has their own line of brew kettles, as well as one of the lowest priced all-in-one electric brewing systems out there, and their prices are shockingly low. If you're in the market for legit stainless gear that won't break the bank, do yourself a favour and head over to deltabrewingsystems.com today. Now, the beers have been in those fermentation kegs for about 4 weeks now, so I could just leave them in there and just serve the beer straight off of them, but I would rather get that beer off the trub now, and potentially I can then use those kegs again to start fermenting my next beer. So I'm cold crashing those 2 kegs, then I'm going to pressure transfer into 2 sanitized kegs, and then from there I will carbonate and serve from those. Now, there was a difference in final gravity. The yeast cake batch reached 1.008, while the fresh yeast recorded 1.005. Visually, however, both beers looked much the same. So, time for some triangle tests, starting with what became a very memorable experience for Norm and I. So to help me with the triangle test, I have Norm. I have not been on a very good run of getting these right.
I saw the last video.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful that I can do better, but if not, at least I've got you here to try and make things look a bit better.
We'll see how it goes. This is going to be an interesting one.
So we're both semi-blinded, which means we're going to get 3 cups.
Right.
We don't know what the split is, but we do know that it's a Vienna lager, and we do know that it's using fresh yeast versus reused yeast.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, so this is our first attempt. My wife off camera has provided 2 unique, 1 different.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Donna. All right, let's give it a go.
All right. Okay, that made my decision.
Me too.
Okay.
Okay, so let's, at the same time, on the count of 3, push the beer forward that we think is the odd one out.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
1, 2, 3. Oh, we've both gone green. Is it green?
We're getting the thumbs up.
If I had to guess, I would say the green was made with the fresh yeast and this was made with the reused yeast.
That would be my impression as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
yeah,
that is the fact.
that makes sense.
So, so that's right.
Yeah.
So I think we might be onto something here.
I think so too.
All right, round 2.
Round 2. I think I know.
On 3.
On 3.
1, 2, 3. Oh.
And that is these are the fresh ones, and that's the used one.
Oh, I think that's the fresh one, and these are the
Oh,
reused
really?
ones.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. Are we right?
Okay.
Is red fresh?
Red is fresh. Okay. I thought that was the used one that time.
For me, the defining thing is the aroma.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Okay, round 3.
Round 3. Let's do it.
Okay. I don't know if it's the fact that we've been through it a couple of times now, but the aroma doesn't seem as distinctive.
100%. It's
Yeah.
much harder now.
Yeah, it does.
I think you just get nose blind after a
Yeah,
while.
I think so. I'm the most uncertain I've been so far.
On 3, let's pull forward the one we think is
Okay.
the unique sample.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Oh, we picked red. Is red correct?
This will be interesting.
Oh, we both got it wrong. Red is not the unique sample. Which is it?
That's a control test. They're all the same.
Oh no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
These are all the reused yeast, aren't they?
Yeah. No.
They're all the fresh
No,
yeast.
you're right. They are.
Yeah,
They're all-
the
yeah,
reused
yeah.
yeast.
Yeah.
That is no,
So, yeah.
no.
You were doing too well.
That's not the way this is supposed to work.
All right, so after that, below the belt
I know. Totally.
effort,
Totally.
we're gonna see if we can redeem ourselves for the attempt number 4.
The total a-hole move.
Yeah, but I think we did say
We did.
We were like, oh, I can't really tell this is a guess.
We did.
I'm pretty confident this time. The fog has cleared.
Yeah.
I hope we're gonna get this one right.
I think we will.
It's been really funny that we have been in agreement every single time,
It has.
even when we've been wrong.
Even we were wrong, we agreed we were wrong. Yep, exactly. Okay.
All right,
So
give me the countdown.
3, 2, 1.
Oh!
For the first time, we have a difference of opinion.
All right.
This will be interesting. Yeah, I think this one is the used one. To me, that one had the thinner flavor that I associate with the used.
I agree that the green is used, but I think the blue is also used.
Oh,
reused.
okay.
So, is it the green?
Oh, it's not the green.
Is it the red?
Good for you, Martin. Good on you.
And were we right about the reused and stuff? I think red is the fresh one, the far one. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right, so final test. I'd like
Final
to have a dedication to this test.
Uh-huh.
I would like to dedicate this test to the guy that commented on one of my other videos and told me, Martin, you need to take a sensory test because you obviously can't tell what you're tasting. So to you, I'm really hoping I get this one right. Think you're ready?
Do you feel confident?
I feel very confident.
Very confident.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel less confident.
Oh, we have a split
Yeah,
decision
Again. Yeah, again.
Did we not both say that?
I think we did the last time was green and red was what we did last time as well.
Is the odd beer out green?
She's trying to remember. No, it's not. Okay.
It's not. Is the odd beer out red?
Oh.
I don't believe you.
No, that's true. Actually, those are both the odd ones out because I wanted you to have different colours.
What?
So they're both the odd ones. You both got it right. I didn't want you to have the same colour
she tricked us up again.
Just in case you would
Changed the model. So we were both right
yeah.
with different cups.
Oh my god. All right, what about blind tasters then? Well, a total of 20 participants took the test, where each participant was served 2 samples of the beer made with the yeast cake and 1 sample made with fresh yeast. In order to reach statistical significance, 11 tasters would have had to accurately identify the unique sample, and a total of 12 did, indicating participants could reliably distinguish the beers. A significant result, and honestly, I wasn't all that surprised. But the next part did surprise me. The 12 participants who made the accurate selection on the triangle test were instructed to complete a brief preference survey. Now, a total of 4 tasters reported preferring the beer made with fresh yeast, another 4 preferred the yeast cake, 3 noted a difference but had no preference, and 1 reported not being able to detect a difference at all. Now, both Norm and I felt the aroma was a little off with the yeast cake beer and came across as tasting a little thinner, but clearly this opinion was not universally shared. You know, I'm really intrigued by the idea of maintaining a dedicated yeast keg. No washing or a yeast harvesting or anything like that, just keep brewing and then pouring new wort into the keg once the previous batch has finished. And I'm curious how the beer would evolve by, say, the 3rd or the 5th or even the 10th generation. So have you tried this kind of continuous fermentation in your own brewing? If so, I would love to hear about your experiences and how the beer's changed over time. Let me know in the comments. And to see how the original beer that I used in this experiment was made, you can see that by watching this video here.